Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School.
To close out our political fiction festival, we are going to recast 1964 Kubrick movie, Dr. Strangelove.
Let's dive on in. All right, everybody, I'm Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all over the place. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and you will
Definitely
get updates every time that we post anything.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this new... We are giving you new content left and right and center, you guys. Like every time we're like, here's a new thing. Like first we're doing our punishment reviews, then we're gonna give you our forgotten gems, and now thanks to
101s
101s, of course, and then thanks to one of our subscribers, TP Fernandez, who left us a great comment back on our Prince of Darkness episode, and actually was like, here's how I would recast it if this movie was made today, and then went down the list of all the different actors and actresses with new modern contemporary people to fill those different roles. And so we thought, wow, that's a hell of an idea. So this is going to be the first of that, but this is another little one-off that we'll sprinkle in there. And so this is the inaugural recast episode.
Excited to do it. I'm very excited about this one. I think it's a fun idea.
You kind of just pulled this whole thing out of your back pocket. You were like, and then at the end of the political fiction festival, we'll do Dr. Strangelove and we'll do a recast for it.
Yeah,
like,
it just makes a lot of sense. I think a rule we should probably set with these recast episodes is that the movie has to be at least 30 years old.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because you know, I mean, at the same time, like Ferris Bueller just turned 34, so we're old. So we could recast Ferris Bueller if we wanted to.
Well, and I think the other thing that's interesting about that too is that I'm looking at it. Well, and I'm looking at it from the perspective of it's not necessarily a remake, right? It is this concept of if this movie came out today and potentially no one had ever heard of Doctor Strangelove, so you're not comparing it to the old one. How could a recast either live up to the expectations or take a super hard right turn into weird ass territory by recasting it, right? And I love that concept.
I agree. I didn't necessarily look at this as they were remaking it, but yeah, if it was cast today. But I think having it 30 years or older gives it that time to marinate, and usually we'll probably end up doing classic movies. Or some cult classics or something like that where, you know, the movie's aged. We know it's a good movie. We know, you know, I mean, this is probably one of Kubrick's best movies, written, directed by him, of course. If it's not one of his best movies, it's his best written movie.
I agree.
I think that's what the genius writing really makes this movie an all-timer. And
it actually doesn't feel very much like Kubrick, weirdly enough. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't have those sort of hallmark things that we know of Kubrick. It feels kind of different.
It is. You know, the movie's actually structured really oddly because it really has 3 locations. The whole movie. We're on the plane. We're in the war room. Or we're on the base where the batshit crazy general...
Which is mostly just one building. It's just that one building where
exactly.
Where Ripper and...
But like we don't move around a lot.
No, we don't.
Even though the war room's big and awesome and it's definitely like my favorite parts of the movie, you know, it's pretty... Yeah, like when was the last time you thought of a Kubrick movie that was only in 3 locations, let alone any other movie... Really, that it, you know, it's just kind of an odd way to structure something. It totally works. It doesn't take away from it or anything like that. But I don't know. Yeah, this is a classic. It's one we've always loved,
and it's one that I feel like watching it again. I'm just like, God, I've seen this movie so many times, and I still never get tired of it because it's so It's so well done. It's so cocky with its goofiness. Like it does not. It's like it starts at a level of humor that you're like, oh, okay, I see what kind of humor we're going to use here.
Yeah.
And then it one-ups it, and then it one-ups itself again. And then by the time it actually introduces the character of Dr. Strangelove, Peter Sellers' third role in this, by the time he appears, we're at this fevered pitch of silliness that just keeps going higher and higher and higher, to the point where it's like there's a part where we have our Russian ambassador, the Soviet ambassador. It must have been the only take that this guy didn't ruin, but he's almost laughing through the entire take. And it's because Peter Sellers is being so damn funny as Dr. Strangelove. He's standing in the back biting his lip, because you're like, that's probably the only take that they had where they were like, well, he's not out and out ruining the take, so we have to use this one.
Yeah, no, Dr. Strangelove, every time he's on camera, just cracks me up. It's just so funny. It's pretty small role for the most part.
The phantom arm, like, that's just... When he's the part...
He has some kind of disease, but, like, it looks like he's trying to see Kyle, like, the whole time.
Well, and it
like,
chokes him, it chokes him at one point. He's looking in his jacket for his little meter to see how much radiation, like, half-life of radiation. He's looking in his pocket for it, and then his phantom hand just brings it into frame like it's been holding it the whole time.
It's so good.
And it's just like those kinds of elements to it are so classic by this point, right? But you just think about it and you go, the original story that this is based on, was it am I getting that right? Red Alert was the book that it was based off of. Was a serious book, and it was like a thriller. It was a scary book, right? And if you think about it, you're like, yeah, the whole plot could be terrifying, should be terrifying.
Yeah, you could
right?
easily make this, if you had a different director, this would be a totally different movie.
Right. But instead...
But I think the dark satirical humor, though, is what saves it. It's what makes it great.
Right. I completely agree. And of course, famously, Peter Sellers plays the three roles here.
Captain Lionel Mandrake.
Yes, Mandrake.
The nervous guy who's kind of trying to bring in Bridge General Jack Ripper. President Mcconaughey, which is the best name ever.
Merkin.
Especially for Mcconaughey.
Would you like to tell our audience what a Merkin is?
I don't know if I know what a Merkin is.
You don't?
Maybe not. I don't know. Tell me.
Google it.
Enlighten me.
Google it.
It is a pubic wig.
So, if you have
basically...
I don't know who, and I don't know it never
President pubic wig.
Pubic wig. It never specifies if it's like for like movies or for like people who feel insecure. Like, I don't know, but I love that term has been around long enough that when they made this movie, they were like, Merkin.
Yeah. Then of course, Dr. Strangelove itself. So we got Lionel Mandrake, Mcconaughey, and Dr. Strangelove. All three Peter Sellers roles, very similar to what he did in Lolita.
Now, of course, he was originally supposed to do 4 roles. He was supposed to be Major Kong. Peter Sellers,
but he couldn't quite nail the accent.
He was going to do it. He sprained his foot right before they started filming, and he couldn't sit in the cockpit. It hurt his foot too much. So, of course, which is absolutely fine, because who they got to be Major Kong with Mr. Slim Pickens is just absolutely fantastic.
And then we have George C. Scott, who originally played the General Buck Turgidson, which is a great name as well. Yeah. I love this moment where he falls down in the middle of one of his scenes and gets back up like nothing has happened.
With his crazy look on his face.
But... that was genuinely an accident, and Kubrick realized that how much George C. Scott stayed in character and kept it but I think it's wonderful.
And I think that this goes to looking at George C. Scott as a dramatic actor who's known for movies like Patton, right, and The Changeling. Like, I mean, he is a very hardcore. Like, you see all these movies that he's done where it's like he is an intense actor, and then go, he's doing comedy here. Right? He's doing big, bombastic, broad comedy. And so I think that's another thing to kind of like add into that is that there's something about that character in particular. Now, to go along with that, let's talk about Sterling Hayden, who plays General Ripper. Probably given some of the best lines in this entire movie, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure. Him going basically crazy, starting a nuclear war the whole rest of everyone else in the movie is just trying to stop the whole movie. I mean, that's the plot of the movie.
That's the plot of the movie.
Plot.
Well, and he gets to really carve in stone. There's a couple things that this movie carved in stone, I think, culturally and historically. I think the fluoridation water is the greatest commie threat ever, Ice cream, Mandrake, children's ice cream, right? Like all this. What's his other line? Well, Mandrake, it was during the physical act of making love. I don't avoid women, but I do deny them my essence, right? It's like these kinds of just like classic lines. And another cultural touchstone I think that was carved by this movie is this whole Operation Paperclip CIA concept of the CIA basically being started by grabbing Nazis after World War II and having them come over to the United States. I mean, that is who Dr. Strangelove's character is, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like taking these conspiracy theory kind of like bubbles that are floating around in the zeitgeist and pulling them down and like attaching these ideas to them that now just live in history, right? Like the fluoridated water thing. Everybody knows it, and if you go back to Sterling Hayden's delivery of it, it's because he's serious as a heart attack as he's delivering these lines with this big cigar in his mouth, right?
You kind of have to be. And the recast of that particular character is my favorite one, so I'm very excited to share that one.
That's great. Well, do you want to talk about, should we talk about how, kind of what the plan is here of how we're going to go about this?
Yeah, for sure. I think we just go through each character. You kind of took a little different angle and took the Peter Sellers angle of what one actor could play all three of these.
Yes.
And then I took the angle of individual actors if we recast this and didn't have an Eddie Murphy situation here, who would play these?
So now, should I tell you now that it's Eddie Murphy that's my choice for? No, I'm just kidding.
It is.
No, it's not.
I hope so.
Oh my God! Can you?
Arsenio
Yeah, haven't
Hall.
you seen the Clumps? I mean, isn't that the name of the family from?
Yeah,
isn't it the Clumps
from The Nutty Professor?
Yes.
But of course, he did that obviously in Coming to America.
Yeah. Much better, by the way. I'm actually really disappointed that his old Jewish man from Coming to America never made another appearance in his long career. Because I'd watch a whole movie of that. I'd watch a whole movie of that character. He's amazing.
No doubt. It's great.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover those three characters that you already talked about. We've already talked about General Buck Turgensen and then Jack Ripper, and then we'll go do Slim Pickens' character Major Kong as well. So
perfect.
Why don't you get started? Who did you choose to play all three of these?
Oh, we're gonna start at the top? No, let's go. Can't we work our way up?
Let's start with Major Kong then.
Because I have to say, I think that at least for me, that is my. I don't want to hit the high note and then still have 15 minutes for this episode.
Yeah, these people.
That's
pins and needles.
Yeah, pins and needles.
Pins and needles.
Okay, so let's start with Major Kong. I thought a lot about Slim Pickens and who he is as not so much an actor as a personality, right? That can just show up, and with the way that he talks. And sort of like, even when he's, no matter what your color, creed, or your gender, right? Like, just hearing him talk is funny. So I went way outside of that. And I went with Taika Waititi. I think that he would be an amazing Major Kong, just delivering those lines and like, with the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. But just the way he talks inherently makes you laugh.
For sure. Funny enough, he is on my list, and I actually chose him as one of my. I didn't take this angle, but these were going to be honorable mentions after you talk yours. But he was on my list to do all three. I think he could step into that Peter Sellers role and still.
Oh, to be all three.
So.
Oh, that's really interesting. I guess I could see that. Yeah, that's so funny. He ended up on both of our lists.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he's a very talented guy.
He is very talented,
and he's got a ton of range with his characters as well. So
who did you pick for Major Kong?
All right, this one, it was kind of an easy, funny thing to throw in there, but I thought about the iconic shot where he's riding it like a bull, riding the nuclear weapon as it goes down like a bull, and just the kind of his dialect and how he talks. I'm going with Matthew McConaughey.
Whoa, yeah, of course he could. Of course
Totally,
he could.
right? He's got the Texas accent.
Yeah, those are rookie numbers. You got to bump them numbers up, right?
And you know that he would sell it hard. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Matthew McConaughey.
I love that. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. Okay, both different takes on it, but I think that part of it is that dialect. That's a huge piece of it. All right, so let's move on to the Sterling Hayden character. Should we do that one next? The General Ripper character?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I went first last time, so you go first this time.
All right. Again, like I said earlier, this one was my favorite one that I nailed. That I feel like the more I watched it, the more I was convinced this actor could play him, because he's slowly going crazy. He ends up shooting himself in the bathroom. Just like
Water,
he's all over the place.
Water on the back of the neck there.
Give me some grain alcohol and what else does he say? I can't remember what it was, but I'm going Michael Shannon.
Oh shit! Oh my god, that's perfect. Oh god,
like,
I was trying to think of who it could be, but Michael Shannon is perfect.
It is. I was watching it. I'm like, once I convinced myself, everything he kept saying, I'm like, Michael Shannon could easily do that, because he can be really funny. He's in quite a few comedies if you look at his filmography.
But he's always deadpan.
He's also but he also can be super heavy and do the dramatic stuff as well. So I think he could balance both of those and have it still be convincing.
So when Ebert reviewed the Freak movie Bug, that was not what's the guy that did Take Shelter, Jeff Nichols. What was his first
Mike
movie?
Nichols.
No, not Mike Nichols, Jeff Nichols.
Oh yeah, duh. Yeah, sorry.
Other way around.
Shotgun Stories.
Yeah. So I think that was, I can't remember which one was first, Shotgun Stories or Bug, but
it was Shotgun Stories.
So when Ebert was talking about that, how he referenced Michael Shannon was, he's like, I haven't seen anybody give as strange of deadpan performance since seeing a young Christopher Walken in The Dead Zone.
The ice is gonna break.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh my god, I can totally picture that, right? Like, if
He's totally got a Walken vibe.
If you needed somebody to play like a younger Christopher Walken, like Michael Shannon's your dude. Okay, so here's who I went with for the Jack Ripper.
Okay.
I went, and I think I was very much in the same way of yours, of like somebody who is serious as a heart attack and then can deliver these lines that just are inherently funny, even though they're selling them with this weight and gravitas. And so I went with Idris Elba. I think that he also could have this, and he's formidable, right? He's he's a big guy, but he just has that intensity. And then I'd say British accent or American accent, either one.
Sure.
He can do either, and I think he would sell that in the same way.
That's great. That is great. I love that. I think he can completely pull that off. I think we've talked about this before, but a lot of times comedians go into dramatic roles and it seems pretty flawless and people are like blown away, but comedy's way harder.
Yep.
Right. And so always seeing a dramatic person go into a comedic role is always really interesting, though I can't think of a ton of comedic Idris Elba movies, but I think he could completely pull it off. I think he has that crazy. He could do the crazy general. I could see it.
Just with that cigar in the corner of the mouth and that like 5,000-yard stare, right? Like I was like, I can picture him. He's really good at chomping scenery. I'm thinking of even something like Pacific Rim, right, where he's just like
totally
up on the rock giving the speech.
I think you also have to talk about Lionel Mandrake, who's pretty much the only person who acts with him in this movie.
Yeah,
Peter Sellers, but he's this very nervous person who's like, oh, just give me the code. Can you give me the code? What's that code? And, he's just trying to stop this nuclear war and reason with this guy who's obviously gone batshit crazy.
Well, the whole thing of it. Don't you remember? He's trying to after his men surrender, and he gets so depressed, and he's trying to cheer him up, and he's like, no, just a couple minutes ago, Jack, remember you with the machine gun and me feeding you, and you said, feed me, and I fed you, Jack, I fed you. Right? Like, it's just so
good.
It's that silliness just like totally works between those two characters.
Awesome. Let's get to George C. Scott's character, General Buck Turgidson.
Okay.
I'm actually really excited about this one as well, but I went first last time, so it's up to you.
I thought a lot about this, and I thought a lot about...
it was a hard one.
I went
through a lot of different people, and I'm really happy with who I settled with, but it took me a minute.
It took me a minute too, and I think for what George C. Scott did, where he was playing so against type in this silliness and this kind of like always with the gum in the mouth, just like so different, and you think like he's an actor that so many audiences knew so well going into Doctor Strangelove, and then seeing him play this completely different character. I thought, how much fun would it be to see Mr. Captain America himself, Chris Evans, play Buck Turkington and just be doing they'll see the big board, right? With its crazy eyes. And I was just like, you could put on a couple of pounds. They could even thin his hair out, and it would probably be really funny, right?
Get that the army cut or
the army cut, but it's fading way back, right? And you just go, I could see him doing that and being really funny because it's so against type.
Nice, I love it. That's good. Captain America himself. He could do it. He could do it.
I think so too.
I know he gets kind of pigeonholed as just Captain America.
Well,
but
did
he's
you
done
ever
see
see
a ton of amazing shit?
Did you ever see the
Fantastic
Iceman?
Four? Yes, I did.
No, his Johnny Storm is on point. No,
Johnny Flame.
Johnny Flame. I thought it was Johnny Storm.
Isn't it?
I think it's Johnny Storm.
No, is he? The Storm? I can't remember. I'm
Sue
not a big
Storm is the Invisible Woman, and I think that's the younger. He's younger brother. Anyway, doesn't matter. None of this matters. What I was going to say is, did you ever see the Iceman with Michael Shannon, where Michael Shannon plays the hitman, and Chris Evans actually plays the other hitman with the long straggly hair who drives the ice cream truck, and he has that wiry little beard, and I was like, oh my God, he's amazing. Like, it's hard to throw away 10 years of your life. I mean, no matter how much money you're making, but still to be like, I'm committed to this, so I can only do little bits and pieces and other things.
Cool.
So,
I love it. All right. My choice, I'm very happy with this choice as well. I was thinking about his intensity in a lot of these scenes, but also being like the guy with his secretary, like, no, baby, don't call here.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
I care about you intellectually.
But I thought of a character actor is one of my all-time favorite actors. He's just, every time he's on screen, you just like love to watch him. But I went with Ian Mcshane.
Oh my God.
He would be an awesome General Turgidson. He doesn't even have to have the haircut, but I think he could have those intense parts and make it really funny and bombastic. And that's probably playing against type for him as well.
It definitely would.
He's generally a lot more serious actor, but I have seen him do funny stuff, and I think he could pull it off. He's good enough actor.
Isn't he the dad in
a Hot Rod?
Hot Rod.
That's right.
He's his dad.
That's right.
They keep getting into fist fights.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Like stuff like that.
That's amazing, dude. I love that.
But Ian Mcshane, I was super happy when I thought of it. I was like, okay, because I had a lot of people on here. I thought about maybe Bruce Willis or somebody like that could do it.
Sure. The other person I was thinking of that would be really good to be Sam Rockwell in that role.
Oh yes,
I think he'd be really good in that role.
He's good in everything.
Yeah,
all right, let's get to the big
except
boys.
for the Poltergeist remake. Sorry, what? Nothing. Don't worry about it.
You were convinced that was going to be good. I mean, if you just looked at the cast, you're like, yeah,
sure, why not? And then it's like, no.
All right, let's get to Peter Sellers' character. I'll go ahead and do my individual ones real quick. I'll just burn through them here.
Perfect.
And then you can kind of go into your final analysis there with the one actor that could do all three. So let's start with Lionel Mandrake. This is the nervous guy.
Yes.
That is with the general who's going crazy.
Very British, very nebbish. The little mustache.
For sure. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about accents and stuff like that. I was thinking about who could hold the room with this guy and who's a great nervous actor, right? Like, is it Michael Cera? Like, who could it be? Like, I was trying to think, and I ended up landing on Steve Carell. I think he would totally be able to pull this off. If you think about like 40-Year-Old Virgin and how perfect and nervous he is in that whole movie, he does that amazing.
I'd go to Anchorman, the Brick Tamland character, just always like and kind of messing with stuff on the table.
Yeah. So Steve Carell, I think Lionel Mandrake, give him a little mustache. He just did that show Space Force on Netflix.
That's right.
And so I've seen him in a general suit, so it kind of was fitting for that as well.
That's great.
All right, President Mcconaughey. This one was pretty easy for me because I purely went with looks here and, of course, acting talent. But I'm going Stanley Tucci. It's got to be Stanley Tucci. I mean, if you look at Merkin,
he looks.
It's a dead eye. He totally does. I know Stanley Tucci could do this. You know, some of my favorite shit is when he's on the phone with Dimitri.
Yeah.
Hello, Dimitri. You know, like those are amazing.
Well,
and I could see Stanley Tucci selling.
You're not as you don't have to be more upset than I am. Both of us can be equally upset. And then you're just looking at the camera's panning around to all these other generals that are like kind of looking at their shoes because they're all so embarrassed that this is the guy in charge, right?
Well, it's like a room full of children, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what he's trying to do, and he's treating them like so. But I thought Stanley Tucci could easily pull this off and be completely successful in it. Last one here, super happy with this one. I got to give my wife credit on this one, but she nailed it. And once she said, I'm like, oh, it has to be him.
Oh.
But Dr. Strangelove,
okay,
Martin Short, right? It's got to be Martin Short. Like, just watch Dr. Strangelove and then imagine Martin Short doing it. And it's so perfect.
Well, it makes me think of Martin Short's character as that retired bodybuilder on Arrested Development that has like the spinal injury, so like none of his body moves anymore, and
He's
so he has
physical, and he could do it all.
Well, it's Ed Grimley, right? I mean, it's all Ed Grimley.
Totally.
Oh my God, I think that's
perfect,
fantastic.
Right?
I think that's I think that's
I was super happy with that.
Absolutely fantastic. Wow, I think those are great. Those are all of those are great choices. And I have to say that when we first talked about this and talked about the idea of recasting, I think it was that night that I thought of who could do all three. And then since then, I've watched a couple of movies with this person in it, and it just solidified it even more for me because they're just a chameleon, and everything that they do, that's
what you need as a chameleon.
Different.
You need a chameleon.
And in both, because Peter Sellers is an interesting dude, because like he's done drama before, and then he's done the Pink Panther films, and you're like, so super broad comedy with big fake teeth and weird glasses, and then next to it like something very subdued. So my Peter Sellers, my Merkin, Strangelove, and Mandrake is Tilda Swinton.
Yes,
I think she could easily pull it off. I was
not expecting that.
I just watched Suspiria last night, which, spoiler alert, if you don't know, she plays multiple characters in that. Of course, Oakjaw, she plays two amazing, hilarious characters there. Snowpiercer, another super bizarre character in that.
Yep.
I think over and over and over again, you can just go, oh, yes, of course. Like any one of these, like no matter who you wanted Mandrake to be like, if you wanted Mandrake to look and sound exactly like the Mandrake from the original, she could probably pull that off. As a man with a little mustache.
That's amazing. I was not expecting that. That's good.
It's funny. I told Abby and she was like, you guys. And she shook her head and she's like, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he had that same answer.
No. My one that I kind of fell back on, we already talked about Taika Waititi, but someone in the kind of a similar vein, which I haven't seen them do multiple roles, but he is a chameleon, and I thought could easily pull it off. But Tom Hardy, I think, could do it.
Oh yeah, I could see that. He does. Like he weirdly disappears.
So yeah, and I think he could do it and still bring the comedy to it, even though he's not really a comedic guy. But I think he could do it.
Yeah,
so
I think so too. I'd love to see Tilda Swinton as all three. I think it would be the funniest damn thing.
Well, I hope you do some sweet Photoshop work for this episode. I'm excited to see it. That was super fun. That was really fun. Classic movie. Amazing time. Yeah, good stuff. I can't wait to do another recast.
Yeah, no. Well, what it does is it makes you start thinking a lot about what each actor. Well, it's two parts, right? It's what each actor as a craftsman is bringing to the table, but then at the same time, it's also about what the audience might expect from that particular actor, right? So if you're thinking of the 1960s, Peter Sellers means something to an audience then, one particular kind of thing. Same with George C. Scott, same with Slim Pickens, right? Like they mean a particular thing to those audiences. So when you think about that same way, it's just an interesting aspect to the craft of movie making that we don't talk nearly as much about.
It's true. Yeah, it really forces you to think about the character and the actor, where we kind of lump them all into one thing when we're talking about an overall movie. And this really kind of allows you to separately go through each one and talk about them and what their little traits are and stuff like that. So
definitely
awesome. Well, that was super exciting. It was a great festival with the Political Fiction Festival. I hope everyone followed along. So please subscribe if you guys liked what you saw. We will be back next week with our new festival, Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, I can't wait.
We are gonna do Total Recall.
Yes.
What else are we doing? Starship Troopers.
RoboCop. Basic Instinct.
And then
go for it.
Go.
All right. So then we'll be capping off those 4 episodes with a 5th Paul Verhoeven film. As our punishment review, we will be reviewing Showgirls.
Can't wait. This was kind of a heavy festival, so I think mixing it up with something a little funner and action and stupid action.
Well, it's just and it's not even like this isn't like an exploration.
Actually, smart action, I should say.
Well, I was going to say this isn't an exploration of Paul Verhoeven's like oeuvre. It's just like Paul Verhoeven when he was on fire in the 90s.
Yeah, just the 10 years in the 90s.
Or like from like 87,
all 5 of those movies.
87 to 97. There was like, yeah.
Exactly.
Which is good.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, everyone. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. We will talk to you next week.
Bye, you guys. Do you think it's possible that we could be dealing with the coronavirus for long enough that they will have to start implementing special effect techniques to make it look like groups of people in movies are standing together without masks on?
It's funny. My wife watching movies are like, they shouldn't be kissing right now. What are they doing?
I know, right?
That instinctual normalcy that we had before is gone.
I know.
For the time being.
I was watching some movie and there was like a group of people. There was like someone like walking through a crowd of people and I was like, ew, hold your breath. But I do wonder, like, I mean, if you had a group of actors in a scene, like, I mean, Hollywood needs to get back to work, right? So like, do they do like...
I don't know.
You know how they got rid of Superman's upper lip because he was in that Mission Impossible movie and he had a mustache, and so in the Zack Snyder movie they had to like CGI in his upper lip. You heard about that, right?
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, they did, and you can find it if you look up Superman CGI lip. There is like a really strange. Who's that actor?
I can't remember his name. He's really good though.
Yeah, he's great. But it's him, and he had a mustache they had to go back and do reshoots. And the studio that had him for Mission Impossible, I guess he was like the bad guy in that. They were like, he can't shave his mustache. Like it was like in his contract, like because he was still shooting that movie. The shots won't match up. So rather than having him put on a fake mustache, they spent like $1 million to CGI an upper lip that still doesn't really cut it.
Crazy. Well, I do think there will be a gap at some point in as far as content coming out, right? Because we are, you can't go on a movie set right now to do stuff.
Yeah.
Though I did read that Netflix has like 59 releases left this year to release. And they shoot so far ahead of time that they're pretty covered.
From now till December, they have 59 new like series or just things?
I think just things like it could be a stand-up special or it could be a cooking show or whatever it is, like a reality show. They have a million things they do, but still, that's a lot.
That is a ton. Wow. All right.
And then, so I don't know.
But then after that, it's all going to be like it's going to be all these. They're going to wear it. It's going to be like a COVID mask, but with the green dots on it, like Andy Serkis always has to wear. So that they can go back later with just the one person in front of a blue screen, really overdoing all of their dialogue so that they can cut and match their mouth to the actor talking. What do you think?
Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's wild. And that maybe, I mean, if there's CGI in people's mustaches, then it's very possible. But I'm sure there'll just be restrictions and testing and stuff rather than, I don't know. That seems cheaper to me than than trying to hide a mask.
Well, my other thought was you just do something where it's all stories that are kind of like Lord of the Rings or kind of like The Hobbit, where they all sit as far apart as Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen did on that bench, so they can do the first perspective. So it's just like this is the only way they could do it. Is it looks like they're sitting at a table together, but one of them's huge and the other one's really small.